Welcome to the Yap Chronicles. I'm going to tell you three stories that shape my identity. Not just big moments, but the moments that made me stop and think, oh, this is who I am. Or at least, this is a part of me. I think we all have these moments. Maybe you don't recognize them right away, but when you look back, you see the shift. The moment something clicked. Maybe you made a decision, maybe the world made it for you. Either way, you walked out of it different than when you walked in. This is me looking back, connecting the dots, and figuring out how I got here. So, settle in, get comfortable, and I'm going to go through these stories. I'm going to start with the first time I really had to confront my future. Not just what do I want to do, but who am I when I don't have a plan? It's spring 2013. 3 more years of Obama. We're deep into the Great Ninja War in Naruto, and I just caught up to the final season of Weeds, the first show I ever followed through to the end. It's my last semester of high school, the time of college application responses, and I waited until the very last possible moment to do mine. I have a habit of procrastinating on things that really matter to me, and while I played it cool in conversations with friends about college plans, I never lived up to the talk. I didn't prepare, didn't research, didn't apply until May, a month before graduation. I ended up selecting one college, SUNY Oswego. That's where my closest friends, the ones heading to college, were going. So that's where I wanted to go. Because of my relationship with my family, I always sought community elsewhere. I wanted to be where my friends were. I put all my eggs in one basket and I got rejected. And that's when reality really set in. I'm not going to college? Do I take a year off? Does it even matter? I was separated from my friends, unsure about my future, and it was all my fault. For a while, I didn't do anything except watch Weeds. And when the series finally ended, I remember this feeling, inspiration, a story seemingly complete. But I knew that if the characters kept going, they'd keep finding trouble. That's how stories work. Every season ended in disaster, and yet they found a way, not always out, but through, together. That stuck with me. I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew I wanted to create, or at least be part of something that could inspire others the way that show inspired me. But I had never really imagined myself preparing for that role. I liked to pretend, went all out in reading sessions in class, but I knew nothing about that world. That summer after graduation, I saw ads for my local community college, Queensboro. Get your associate's degree in 2 years and transfer to a 4-year college to finish your bachelor's. Good old QCC. And it was cheaper, a lot cheaper than a 4-year. I applied, and up until then, I had been on the track to become a pediatric surgeon. And as you might suspect, because I'm here making these videos, I did not stay in the medical field. Outside my apartment was the Q30 bus, a bus I had never taken, never had a reason to. For nearly 2 decades, it just existed, part of the background. And then, suddenly, it became my daily ritual. For the next 2 years, I take that bus at every imaginable time of day. Isn't it funny how something that's always been there can activate in importance, becoming a fixture in your life until one day you don't need it anymore? Now when I see that bus, I feel it settling into nostalgia. Queensboro was full of people who felt like me, energy-wise at least. People resting on an ember of hope, walking through uncertainty. It was a little grim. Community colleges don't get the respect that other institutions do, and that's a shame because they can truly be transformative. After navigating the campus for the first time through unfamiliar buildings that would soon feel like home, I found myself at a desk. And then the question came, what's your major? And just for me, for a split second, time slowed down, and there was a whisper. Theater. What did I have to lose? My friends were far away, I wasn't drawn to medicine, and I knew what I loved. So I said it. Theater. And with a squint and a slight smile, the person at the other side of the desk nodded and said, "You'll be fine. That program is really special. They take care of each other." And that was comforting, because I was walking into school completely alone, unknown, in a major I knew nothing about. And wow, it was difficult, beautiful, confusing, fulfilling. I remember my first acting class with the legendary author Adair. And one of the first things he told us, only about 1% of you will actually become a successful actor. And that's when I felt it. The challenge, the joy of striving, the community of starving artists, and for the first time, the belief that I could make it work. That moment in college, choosing theater set a lot in motion for me. It made me face my passion, my drive, my community, and even parts I wasn't ready to face. I had to come to terms with dreams, but not myself. And that would take a little longer. I knew I was a little different growing up when my first celebrity crush was Clay Aiken on American Idol. I admired his voice, how he could keep up with Ruben Studdard, but it wasn't just that. Something about his twinkish looks caught my attention. They were cute to me. I didn't question it then, didn't have the words for it, didn't have anyone to talk to about these feelings. I just sat with my family, watching American Idol, having a good time, pretending that maybe I'd be up there one day. What I didn't know at the time was how much the world really despised gay people. The church didn't seem to like them because their interpretation of God didn't. I grew up in the church, brought up to perform, not just in song, but in testimony. Giving youth sermons, standing before the congregation, denouncing what I would later realize was a part of me. And for that, I was praised. At school, it was no different. A young boy acting too effeminate was crucified. And my mother, a Jamaican woman, traditional to her core, not having any of that. Maybe I did think something was wrong with me, but I wouldn't dare speak it out loud. It wasn't until high school that I started to really re-examine myself. I knew I was into girls. I knew I was into guys. For a semester in 10th grade, I was bold enough to come out as bi to a very select group of people. And then, just as quickly, I ran back into the closet before anyone could notice. Instead, I turned to internet chat rooms, spaces for growing boys who wanted to talk to other growing boys about the things we didn't dare say out loud. Anonymous conversations, insecure curiosities, questions we weren't allowed to ask in real life. It gave me confidence enough to start testing the waters in person. I remember telling my best friend at the time, I started watching gay porn. His response, "You ain't gay though." I don't know why that warmed me in one way and put me off in another. I knew he meant, "You're fine. There's nothing wrong with you." But I also knew he was wrong. I did like guys, and there was nothing wrong with me. But I was raised to believe there was. So I pushed it down, and I wouldn't make peace with it for another decade. I had crushes on friends, but I never acted on them until college. I wasn't the most attractive growing up, but I had charm. Not enough to win over the girls I wanted, but more than enough to win over the guys. The gag is, I was a male theater student. Not that all theater guys are gay, but let's be real. Look at the material. It was probably harder to find a completely straight man in the department. Still, I stayed hidden, but there was one guy, a tall, slender, dark chocolate guy, warm, sweet, and a little gullible. We were in a play together during my last semester at QCC, right before I transferred to a 4-year. I had quit my job to focus on my studies, to take a leading role in the play, and yeah, maybe also because of him. We never talked about sexuality, but he liked me, and I liked him. Somehow, we ended up in a situationship through text. In person, we were warm with each other, but never too warm, never enough for people to notice, because I couldn't bear the idea of being seen out loud. I knew, deep down, the only way to live was standing in my truth, but I wasn't ready. So I called it off. He never resented me for it. He stayed warm and kind, and for that, I'll always be grateful. I ended up transferring to SUNY Oswego, back on track with my original plan, stick with my friends until the end. Even if that meant 8 months of blizzards and whiteout snowstorms and freezing temperatures. This time, though, I wasn't just a student. I was an actor. And the theater department, they swept me in fast. They heralded me as a king. Literally, my first role, King Pentheus in the Bacchae. My first taste of popularity, and I lavished in it. Years later, I'd realized there was some tokenism at play at this predominantly white institution. But in the moment, I was swept up in it all, honey. Suddenly, I was away from my parents, back with my friends, surrounded by a new group of people who thought I was the shit. And, oh yeah, the drugs. Then one night, I did something that shocked quite a bit of people. I kissed a guy, publicly, at a party. I had enough drinks to be considered, but I was well aware of what I was doing. Maybe I was in a rut sexually. Maybe I was tired of fighting it. Maybe I just thought he was cute. He was cute. Short, stocky, white theater major. We weren't close, but we had been in the same classes, the same productions, and that night he was extra cute. So I said, fuck it, why not? The gawks and oh my gods that erupted around us made me laugh inside. But I felt something deeper than that. I felt love. Not from him, from me to me. For the first time, I was accepting this part of myself out loud. And I kept doing it. Not the kissing, just the announcing. I'm bi. I like men. I like men. I like men. And that was okay. It was okay. I was okay. Now, when I left Oswego, this new version of me came back home and had to redesign my closet. I was out everywhere except at home. Home life reminded me why I left. I had planned to move into my first apartment with 2 friends, a gay couple, and people were telling me that that was a bad idea, but they didn't understand how corrosive my home had become. Maybe the universe's last plea to get me to choose differently was when we realized we needed a guarantor for the apartment. I asked my mom. She said no. And I stormed off. And she called me back and asked, "Are you gay?" I felt something familiar, that same feeling I had at the party that night. The feeling of not giving a fuck. "No," I said, I'm bisexual. Confusion. It means I like girls and boys. Anger, denial. She brought up church, brought up God. I didn't have the words to explain myself to her. I barely had them for myself, but I stood my ground and I realized something. My truth didn't kill me. It set me free. We didn't speak to one another for a week. A few months later, I found an apartment that didn't need a guarantor, and I was out of there. Bi and free. Be free. Bi free? I don't know. There's something wild about identity. It's always evolving. Just when you think you know yourself, something else shakes the foundation. For me, that something was fatherhood. I had spent a good portion of my life wondering about the father I never had. And then, all at once, I became one. My biological father died when I was an infant, and my mom didn't remarry until 4th grade. The idea of a father figure was a mystery to me. All I knew was that he was murdered, and he wasn't coming back. His death carved something deep in my mother, so deep she never talked about him. There were a couple of pictures, scattered proof that he existed, that he looked like something, that he looked like me. I held on to those through high school, when everything in my body was changing, when I was feuding with my mom, when I had no idea who I was or what I wanted to do. I used to wish he could reach out somehow. Send messages from the ether. Some proof that he had been here, watching. But I never heard anything. It's a strange kind of loss, grieving someone you never got the chance to know. How do you mourn what was never yours to begin with? The PR for Black fathers isn't great, so I told myself it was better this way. That he probably wouldn't have been around, but there truly is no way of knowing. Looking back, I can see how I searched for father figures in every space where one was present. TV dads, my friends' fathers, older men who were just kind to me. Always watching, always taking notes, trying to piece together what fatherhood was supposed to look like. But my search ended when my own daughter came. After I found out I was going to be a father, I started seeing dads everywhere, walking their kids to school, bouncing babies on their knees, carrying toddlers on their shoulders. Like when you plan to get a new hairstyle and suddenly every stranger has it on the street. The universe showing me a preview of what was coming. Every day, I cycled through a full range of emotions: glee, worry, excitement, pride, nerves, depression. I had already been deeply depressed before I had got the news. Men don't have to carry a new life inside their bodies, but something in us still downloads the update. The dad jokes, the overwhelming responsibility. It all started installing the second I found out, and the truth was, I wasn't in the mental shape to be a father, but I had a core belief. I would not abandon my child under any means. I had thought about disappearing, ending things, but I wasn't going to let her grow up fatherless like me, so I stayed. I remember being in that hospital room when the cesarean was happening, feeling everything and nothing at once. The pregnancy had been complicated, stressful, and she had to be delivered 7 weeks early. I just wanted her to be okay. And when she finally came into the world, she was immediately hooked up to a CPAP machine. Wires, tubes, tape securing her tiny body. The lungs are the last to develop, so she needed the extra support. But on day 2, she was already off the machine, breathing on her own like the champion she is. When I finally got to hold her, nothing inside me shifted the way people say it will. There was no lightning bolt of transformation, no cinematic swelling of emotion, just silence. Just me staring at this tiny, fragile thing, silently swearing to myself that I'd kill anyone that tried to harm her. And then she was placed back into her NICU box to finish developing. That moment didn't hit me until later, when I was talking to her mother about it. I felt something crack open inside me. I realized I had missed my daughter for the first time. And so I went to go back and see her. My capacity for love, joy, patience, and responsibility has never been larger. The father I had once ached for, I suddenly became. Caring for her felt natural, and yet it's the hardest thing I've ever done, the most fulfilling challenge I've ever faced. There are sleepless nights where I curse this thing happening earlier than I expected, and there are mornings where I cry tears of joy, overwhelmed by the sight of her 8-tooth smile, excited to see me. I'm healing from a wound I don't remember getting by being a father. Getting to play with her, guide her, discipline her, raise her, it all happens in the context of the father I wish I had. It's almost like I'm the kid and the parent at the same time, learning as I go, reaching for something I never got so I can give it to her. Identity isn't just something you find. It's something you build and rebuild and break apart only to piece together again. Sharper, stronger, and more whole than before. We hope. Looking back, every decision of me led to the next one. Every shift, every fear, every whispered decision. I carry them all. Not as baggage, but as layers. Proof that I have never stopped becoming. And I know there are more versions of me ahead. More shifts, more lessons, more moments where I'll have to face myself again, tear away what no longer fits, and step into something bigger. But for now, this is who I am. And tomorrow, I'll be even more.